Hey, welcome. I'm Laura Live, Namasturm Yoga. Today we're going to do a nice yoga stretch practice. Come to your mat and let's go ahead and get started. So today's practice, we're going to try to focus on stretching more than strengthening. We're probably going to come to our back, to our knees, to our bellies, but we're not going to come to our feet today. So most of the focus is going to be on getting in there, moving things around, but in a nice, really easy, comfortable, relaxing, stretchy way. Okay, so one thing that I do have today that you can use if you want to, this is optional because we will spend some time on our knees, is a blanket. So if you've got a blanket, something that you can fold to put under your knees, and you might even use it now under your hips as you sit on the mat. So you can give that a try if you like to. You wouldn't want to use anything with like a really open weave or anything too like puffy or fluffy. So you want it to be something that's, relatively flat and stable. Go ahead and just bring those hands to the knees, close the eyes. Give yourself a moment to take a couple deep breaths, check in, and think about transitioning to your practice. So whatever that means to you, if it means trying to set aside anything that's on your mind, if it means just closing your eyes for a moment and maybe taking a second to visualize, or if it's helpful for you to set an intention for your practice, anything that really is just going to help you get into that place where the focus for the next chunk of time is on your body, on your breath, with very specific mindful awareness. Breathing well is going to be useful in any yoga practice. So if you'd like, at this point, let's transition to an ujjayi breath. So a slight narrowing of the back of the throat. Let the inhales and exhales start to even out. And we're actually going to follow this breath while we're still seated for a moment. So just establish it now, something that feels comfortable and natural for you, but rhythmic. Obviously, ujjayi is a little more controlled than just our everyday standard breathing practice. Now when you're ready, staying seated, we're just going to let ourselves rotate a little bit. So we're going to bring the chest forward on an inhale and then move to the side on an exhale to the back, and then inhale to the side and front, and exhale to the side and back, and inhale to the side and front. And this might be a really small movement at first, and that's okay if it is, but gradually you can kind of let yourself get into it. Let the shoulders get into it. You can let the head and neck get into it. If you feel like there's a good way to work those with the torso and the body, trying to follow the breath, maybe even rolling from sit bone to sit bone as you go through this little exercise. Feel what's going on in your spine. So kind of just try to feel it out. Feel out the edges of your range of motion. Also, just make note of what direction you went in, because we will change directions in a moment or two. And then come on back to center, and we're going to start just folding over the shins here. So allow yourself to bring your hands in front of you, and with the legs still crossed, take yourself down to the ground. Let the head hang heavy. Arms can extend out in front of you as far away as is possible, and maybe the head eventually comes to the ground, but don't push or force it. Keep breathing. Walk the hands in, come back up. Let's change the cross of the legs. And then bring your hands back to your knees, and we're just gonna start going in the other direction. So again, inhale forward, but then going the other way to the side. Exhale back, inhale to the side and forward, and exhale to the side and back. And again, you might start slow and small, but gradually increase your range of motion. This should be warming up your spine, your shoulders, your neck, and really just bringing a little easy movement. If you want to make this stay really small, you certainly can. So you could just stay pretty upright and just do some little torso rotations. But if you'd like to really rock to the hips, bend into the elbows, lean back, and find a full range of motion, you know this is supposed to feel good, so find a way to make it feel good for you. If you can include the head and neck, go for it. If that's too much, or you start to get dizzy, or you'd rather kind of try to keep your head more stable, you can opt to go a little easier with the neck. And then come on back to center in your own time. And we're going to take another forward fold over the shins. So walking the hands out. The legs are crossed the other way, so this will feel a little bit different. You're just getting into the other hip slightly different way. Walk the hands out, head comes down. And then walk the hands in, come on up. I'm gonna move this blanket out of the way for the moment. And I'm just gonna turn to the side, but you don't need to. Use the mat in the direction that makes most sense for you. But we are gonna take boat pose. So just a little bit of strengthening work here. Take the hands behind the thighs, pull the shoulders back, move the heart forward. And look, you can take this at the level that makes sense for you. So if you wanna keep the toes on the floor, that's fine. For most of us, we'll at least be able to lift the shins, trying to level them out with the ground. And if you want to take it a little farther, you can extend the arms out in front of you. Keep the heart lifting, gaze forward. Make sure you're still breathing here. This is Navasana, boat pose. So we kind of just gotta balance and roll with it a little bit if we wobble. Take the feet to the floor, reach your arms around your shins and just hug into a little ball. Breathe into the back of the body here. And let's take one more. So hands behind the thighs, lift the heart, shoulders back, shins rise, reach the arms out. Find some stability for yourself here. Look off into the distance as if you were on some large body of water. You could just gaze off at the horizon. And then take the feet to the floor, and we're actually going to come all the way to the ground here. So keep your feet together, let the knees go wide, shift the hips towards your heels, and let's come into Supta Baddha Konasana, which is reclining bound angle pose. Let the head and shoulders come down, tuck the shoulder blades underneath you. Let the knees just drop open here. And this is a very passive pose. So we're just gonna spend a few breaths here. A couple of options for the hands. You could just let them open by the sides of the body. Or I know some people really like to bring a hand to the belly and a hand to the heart. And if that feels good for you, you can go ahead and do that as well. Maybe close your eyes. But really stay focused on the breath. So we've not left the practice. We're not going to just tune out, but we really want to stay present and aware of our body. Maybe notice all the places that you touch down against the floor. If you feel like there's those muscles, on those inner thighs are kind of straining, see if you can release every time you exhale. Just a little more letting go. On the other side of that, if this is really intense and too deep of a stretch for those muscles, you can bring those knees in. Some people will also support their knees with blocks so that it doesn't feel like so much pressure, letting those knees drop. Breathe. And then go ahead and bring the knees in. You can use your hands on the outer legs to push them together. Bring your knees into your chest. Grab hold of the knees and just roll the low back onto the mat by rolling the knees around in one direction, a little circle. And then going in the other direction, a little circle. And then take the arms out, and you can take them like a T, or if you don't have room, you can take them just kind of like cactus or goalpost arms. Let the knees drop to the right and turn your head back to the left, or actually my knees are going left, my head right. It doesn't matter. We'll do both sides. So knees and head in opposite directions. Breathe here. Spinal twists they can be really relaxing, but you might really feel those muscles in the back. So anytime you're feeling a stretch, just see if you can breathe, bringing the inhale into the space that feels tight. And then as you exhale, visualize those muscles releasing and letting go with the breath. And then moving back through center with the knees. And we're just going to go the other way. So whichever way your knees went the first time, they go the other way. And then the head turns again away from the legs. Breathe. And then coming back to center. Once again, hang on to the shins. Let's go ahead and rock a little bit from shoulders to hips. We're going to try to roll up to one more boat pose. So maybe you can just rock right into it with the legs extending. If you need to use your hands to help you, you certainly can. And then from here, I'm going to shift back a little bit. Go ahead and take your left foot down. Keep the right leg up and see if you can bring your hand to your foot and just push that foot up into the hands. At the same time, try to lift the heart and pull the shoulders back. So we get a little stretch, but a little extension as well. Breathe. We're still a little bit balancing on the sit bones, but this left foot is down here to keep you from falling backward. And then take the right foot down and left leg up and just push that foot up into the air. And look, if you can't get your knee straight, it's okay. You can just work here with a bent knee, but try to move the heart forward and shoulders back. If you're able to start to straighten, think of pushing the ball of the foot into the hands, and then the hands can slightly pull back so that the shoulders stay engaged with the upper back. And then take that foot to the ground. And here, I'm going to give you two options. So if you liked what we did before, just wrapping the arms around the shins, you can go ahead and do that. Or if it's possible for you, come to a squat. So use your hands to get the hips off the ground, but we're going to basically do the same thing. We're going to wrap the arms around the shins and curl into a little ball. If you can keep your heels on the ground, great, but I know some people when they squat, their heels are lifted, and that's fine as well. You'll just have to balance a little bit here. We squat so seldom in everyday life, but our bodies are actually really well designed to do it. So we sometimes just have to kind of remind them that they understand how to do all of this deep bending. And it might feel intense, it might feel really good. See how it is feeling. Don't hurt yourself, so no pain. Okay, so now from here, we're gonna come to hands and knees, and if you want to put the blanket under your knees, now this would be the time to do it, but we're not gonna put the hands on the blanket, just the knees. So you've got a little bit of cushion, shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. Let's take some cat-cow stretches. So these are always so nice for the spine. Fingers spread wide, following the breath. Inhale to cow pose. Head and tail lift, chest and belly drop. Exhale to cat pose. Arch the spine towards the ceiling, head comes down. Back and forth, nice and easy. So I really love to practice like vigorous vinyasa and make my yoga practice like a workout, but there are definitely days when my body is like, maybe you need something a little more gentle. Something that's just gonna open things up and feel good. There's nothing wrong with challenging yourself, but there's also nothing wrong with having a practice that just feels nice and enjoyable and pleasurable. So that's why I sometimes do like to do these stretching practices, just because I feel like, you know what? Everything just feels fine and I like it. It helps you to kind of just enjoy being in your body. That's at least the goal here. All right, so from here, we're gonna come up onto our knees, and I'm gonna turn to the side, but again, use your mat in the direction that makes the most sense for you. And we're gonna step the right leg out, and we're gonna come to like gate or gateway pose. So you can let the toes turn out, take your right hand to your leg, and then the left arm just comes up and over for a side stretch. So we're getting in this whole area here. Breathing always. And then we can actually go the other direction. And if this is very hard for you to get your hand to the ground, you could put a block underneath it. And if it's too much, don't worry about it. You might need to turn the toes forward. That top arm can go up or maybe straight overhead, creating a little diagonal along the right side of the body. And breathe. Again, just stretching it out, elongating from the foot to the fingers. And then carefully float up. Bring the knees together. Let's go ahead just for fun. Inhale, reach the arms out and up. I know my hands are probably out of frame. Exhale, go ahead and just drop your heels to your hips. Inhale, float up again. And then we're just gonna go the other way. So take your left leg out. The toes can aim out now, left hand to left leg, top arm up and over. Breathe. This quilt, if you're wondering about it, is one that my mom actually made for me. So it's kind of nice. It's a little special to have that I can use for a yoga prop. So when you're at home, sometimes it's fun to just use something that's meaningful for you as opposed to just the generic props that are in a studio. Go ahead and take the right hand to the ground if you can, or to a block. And you could just keep that top arm straight up or take it overhead alongside your ear. Palm facing the floor. And breathe. This feels so nice just to elongate the sides of the body. How often do we do that in the day-to-day? Go ahead and come back up. And I'm gonna turn again, but we're gonna go to some low lunging here. So again, you may wanna keep your knees on a blanket just to give it a little extra padding. We're gonna keep the left knee down and step the right foot forward. And you may start with your left knee or left hip right over your knee, but maybe walk the knee back a little bit. Ultimately, we wanna lunge forward. Important though that the right knee stays above the ankle, and we don't want the foot way forward or the foot way back and the knee way forward, because that's hard on that front knee. And you can start with just the hands on the ground. So if you like here and you feel like you really just need to hold yourself up with your hands, that's fine. If you're ready to move it up, you could take your hands to your thigh, and then as your hands are there, they can kind of push. And you can move your shoulders back a little bit as you lunge your hips forward, stretching the front of the back thigh, and you'll also probably feel this in your right hip. And then finally, if you're feeling like moving this in the direction of a back bend, the arms can go up and you can lean back. And one way I really love to do this is to take the hands behind my head, interlace the fingers, and just drop the head back. Maybe look up a little bit, open the heart, and finally, if you'd like, see if you can widen the elbows. Breathe here. Nice low lunge. Feel that stretch. We need to spend a little time in stretches so the body is actually aware of what we're asking of it. And then when you're ready to come on out, go ahead and come up slowly, especially if that was a deep stretch for you. Take your fingers to the floor. Take the right knee back onto, again, your blanket if you've got it, or you could be using a towel, that works as well. And then step the left foot forward. Make sure it's far enough forward so that as you lunge your left knee, it's not gonna go beyond your ankle. Let your hips maybe sink forward, though some of you may find that they don't go much forward of that back knee, and that's okay. It's just gonna be a little different for everyone depending on your flexibility. Go ahead and you can keep the hands on the ground if you want to. You could bring your hands to your thigh and then just a gentle push, not right on your knee, but like your thigh, to move your shoulders back and lift your chest. Sinking those hips forward. The more you're able to sink the hips forward, the more the weight stops being directly on the top of that back knee. The other thing you can do if you're feeling like you're able to activate this is push some weight into the top of the back foot. So you're like transferring the weight from your knee to the top of the back foot. And then finally you can take the arms up. You can take them behind the head, you can keep them up, or sometimes people will even like interlace the fingers, point the first two fingers up and lean back into it. So take the variation that makes sense and feels good for you. One more breath here if you've got it. And then take the hands to the floor. Take your left knee back to the right. Slide it, come out slow. Take your knees a little wide. Take the hips back to the heels, and we're gonna come all the way to child's pose. Feel the back of the body expand with every inhale. Maybe sink a little deeper with every exhale. All right, so we're gonna move to our stomachs, but if you've got this on your mat, I actually recommend removing it now, or I guess you could also spread it out completely, but we don't want unevenness underneath our bodies as we come to the floor. So we're just gonna lay out, so find your way down, and we're gonna start with Sphinx pose. So elbows under shoulders, extend the arms out in front of you, and the arms are basically parallel right now. And then instead of just kind of collapsing down with the chest, we're gonna activate this a little by pushing the arms down so that we can lift up out of the shoulders. And then if we wanna slightly move the heart forward, imagine you were gonna pull your elbows towards your hip bones, and although your forearms should be stuck to your mat, you're gonna kind of pull back a little bit of traction to move that heart forward. Keep the neck relaxed, so we don't wanna crane the head back, but we also don't wanna drop the chin down to the chest. Breathe here. And if you want to deepen this a little bit, you can come to seal pose. Fingers spread wide. Just start to straighten the elbows and push up just a bit higher. Now, we're gonna take the right arm kind of at a diagonal maybe, but do let the whole forearm come back down. Keep lifting up out of your shoulder, but we're gonna bend the left knee and then reach back with the left hand for the foot. If you can reach that foot, start to move, like pull your heel towards your hip, and some of you might even find you can get your left hand on top of the foot and press it down so that you're pushing the heel towards your hip. So pulling or pushing, we're moving the heel toward the hip to stretch the left quad. We're still lifting up out of the front arm to stretch the chest. And think about pointing your left knee toward the back of the mat to elongate your thigh. Breathe. And then release your leg behind you and just switch arms. So you can maybe do this at a diagonal if that makes the most sense, but we do want some stability here in front. Bend your right knee, reach back with your right hand, and then gently either pulling, or if you can get the hand over, you can press down. Push the forearm down to lift up out of your front shoulder and breathe. And then let that foot go behind you. Lower down, we're gonna do a couple of shoulder stretches. This first one is also going to be a back bend as well. So we're gonna just interlace the fingers behind the back. If you can't get them together, you could grab like a t-shirt or a towel or a strap or something behind you, but then lift the shoulders, pull your shoulder blades together, and then start to peel your chest up off the ground. To get deeper into the shoulders, let the arms come up off of your hips. And if you wanna, if your low back feels okay here, lift the tops of the feet and point the toes behind you. Little variation on locust pose here. We wanna kind of feel like the bottom of a rocking chair with our body. One more breath. Okay, now slowly lowering down, take the hands back to the waist, let go of your fingers. We're gonna take the right arm straight out with the elbow directly out from the shoulder and a 90-degree bend in the elbow. So the forearm is like parallel to the edge of the mat. We're actually gonna do a stretch for the front of the right shoulder. And the way this works is we wanna put the right ear and the right shoulder on the ground. And then we're gonna use the left hand to press, and we're kind of rolling back and the left foot steps behind. Your left foot may not touch the ground, it's okay if it doesn't, but we're twisting. And because the right shoulder is down, we're hoping to get a stretch across the front of the shoulder. This left hand can push down, or it could lift up and lean back for a deeper stretch. Breathe. When you're ready to come out, slowly roll back to your belly, and this shoulder might feel a little warm because that tends to generate blood flow. Take the left arm out and we're gonna go the other way. So again, you want to have the elbow directly out from the shoulder. So it's not tucked by the body, it's not straight up and over. There's a nice 90-degree angle, remember, like on the right. And then take your left ear and your left shoulder to the ground. Use the right hand to press so that you can kind of roll backwards and breathe. I've got a wall behind me, and that foot may not come down anyway, but we're just letting the weight of the leg contribute to the depth of the pose. And then you can either just continue to gently push with the right hand, or maybe take that arm up and over. Breathe. So many of the things we do in life tend to cause us to round our upper back, and the shoulders kind of tend to drop forward. So stretching this way across the front of the body is recuperative to all of that. So hopefully this feels good to you, even if it does feel a little intense. You can make it, if it's too intense, you can always just roll less, right? So find the balance between, what feels good, and if you get to the point of pain, that's too far. Make sure you can still breathe evenly, deeply. And then carefully coming out. Right hand down and rolling off the belly. And we're gonna come then to a seat. So find your way. And this is maybe not, an obviously smooth transition, but go ahead and find your way to a seated position. Let's take the right leg out. And we're gonna bend the left knee, but the goal is to have some space between the right leg and the left foot, so they're not like smack dab against each other. And we're gonna start with a twist. So keep your right leg kind of engaged here, but we're gonna take the left or the right arm and either wrap it around that left leg, or you can take it past and twist over the left shoulder. The fingers back here we're not leaning on our hand, but we're gonna push the fingers down to help elongate and lift the spine as we turn. And that also can help pull your left shoulder back as well. Coming back through center, so untwisting. Let's take a forward fold. So we've got Marichyasana here. So a couple of options. The reason why there's space between the leg and the foot is because we want to actually fold down with the shoulder inside of the knee here. We can either just take the hands to the floor or reach for the foot and just simply fold. Or some of you might like to bind. So that means taking the left arm out, and then you kind of rotate it back, bend your elbow, and then reach behind the back and have the hands meet. They're gonna kind of meet over by your left hip, but maybe a little higher. And then pull the shoulders back as you lengthen the torso forward. Continue to find your fold. Flex the right toes back towards you and breathe. And then slowly floating out of your forward fold, we're gonna do the other leg. So take your left leg out, bend the right knee, and again, there's a little space, a little gap between the foot and the thigh. If you have a hard time sitting up, and I didn't mention this in the first slide, I apologize, but you could fold your blanket up and give yourself a little lift so that it's easier to lean forward a little bit. So that's an option here. But if you're able to sort of stay pretty upright with your sit bones right under the shoulders, then that's probably not necessary. We're gonna start with the twist. So left arm around the right leg or past the right leg, turning over your right shoulder, and then maybe looking, and then using those back fingers to help lift and lengthen the spine. Untwisting, coming back to center and angling our body towards the right leg, towards the left leg. The right knee should pretty much stay over the left ankle. So that's why we don't want that's the other reason why we don't want the foot in too close, because then that knee is going to drop to the side. Try to keep the shin up. And if you want to, you can take the bind, but that's not necessary. So if it's too difficult to find the bind, just take your hands to the floor and fold. Lengthen and sink down and breathe here. One more good breath. And then go ahead and come on up and let's cross the legs. Take your hands back to your knees. Maybe take the shoulders back and down. Tune into your breath. Notice how you're feeling at this point. So there's a lot of ways to stretch in yoga. So hopefully I've offered you a few new ones that you can use as part of your own practice at home. Please let me know if you like this style of practice, and also, subscribe to my channel so that you know when new videos are coming out. Let's go ahead and close together here, bringing the palms together in front of the heart. Just close your eyes. In this last moment of your practice, really take a second to tune into your breath. Maybe even taking a couple fuller, deeper breaths. And we'll finish our session together with a simple bow forward. The light in me recognizes and honors the light in you. Thank you so much for joining me from home and sharing in a practice. Namaste. Take care. See you next time.